On Flickering Dreams this week, we look at the new DC superhero film Blue Beetle. Also featured is the slightly scatological comedy film Strays. On a more serious note, on Prime Video is You Hurt My Feelings, a new film by Nicole Holoteffer. And finally, we look at a new film out in cinemas at the moment called The Dive. This is Flickering Dreams. My bandwidth seems to be lasting at the moment, but God only knows whether I'm on the Isle of Wight and the internet hasn't been invented yet. It's
okay.
It's like 1950 here. So Marty McFly's just turned up. So we'll see how it lasts. It might take 3 weeks and 2 days to upload the video, but we'll see. Right, thanks for joining Flickering Dreams again. This week we're joined by Emma from Emma at the Movies on Twitter, the Reverend Andy Godfrey from Sorted Magazine and Konnect Radio, and Scott Forbes from the Forbes Film and TV Review on Facebook. And I'm Bob Mann from One Man's Movies. And this week we're looking at 4 films. The first of these is a new superhero film called Blue Beetle. Scott, would you introduce that to us?
Sure. So Blue Beetle is the newest superhero flick from DC, and it tells the origin story of Jaime Reyes, who turns into the titular Blue Beetle. Here's the clip.
Did you know what was going to happen to my brother when you stuck him with this world-destroying thing?
It's called the Scarab.
I had no idea it would activate. It has to choose you.
Give me that!
So how do we get it to unchoose me?
Host acquired.
Who said that?
Systems tracking 3,
okay,
2.
It's gonna be okay.
Uptown, baby. I was down, but they see I'm up down, baby.
Host overreacting.
Overreacting? You kidnapped me!
Right, I must admit, because I'm on holidays this week, I have yet to see Blue Beetle. I seem to have heard mixed reports on it. Scott, what did you make of it?
So I was quite looking forward to this one to some extent, based on the trailer and the presence of the lead actor, who I've been a big fan of from the Cobra Kai TV series. This film was a bit of a mashup of a lot of similar superheroes we've seen in the past. We've got a kind of Venom / Upgrade type of symbiotic relationship going on. To set roughly what the film's about, we've got this alien technology called the Scarab, and we've got a evil CEO played by Susan Sarandon, who's after this technology to create some sort of army type thing. And for various reasons, this Scarab gets in the hands of our lead character, Jaime, and combines with him in order to turn him into this titular Blue Beetle superhero. This movie is all about family to some extent, and particularly the Reyes family, who we get to meet at the start of the movie. They're all very nice enough. It's quite good chemistry between them all. It reminded me in some ways of Ms. Marvel, although not quite as good as that. All the stuff at the start of the film, outside of the suit, I was enjoying that. I liked the characters. I liked the dynamic that was going on. The problem for me came after the whole superhero transformation, and the film just started to go downhill, and it lost me pretty quickly after that. I thought that there was a lot of CGI, crashy, smashy, typical superhero stuff going on. There wasn't enough context, I think, within the script for us to really care, in my opinion. I think we needed to know more about this alien technology. I think we needed to know more about the corporation that Sarandon's character was running. And for me, I mentioned Ms. Marvel. Where I think this film was let down is I don't think it should have been a film. I think this should have been a miniseries. And I think that would have given more time to get us used to these characters and to get more of the backstory. Because I just didn't care. Latter half of the movie, we get all the big boss fights, and it's all very predictable, generic stuff that we're seeing. And by the end of it, I was like, it's just not working for me very well at all. What I should say as well is Susan Sarandon as the villainous Victoria Cord. I actually thought she was the highlight of the film. The dialogue she's given is cheesy as heck, but she hammed it up big time, and I thought played it really well for what she was given. I think for me, the problem just was that I'm not going to remember much about this film. It reminds me of too many other things, but not as good as them. And yeah, I think for DC's penultimate film before the James Gunn takeover, it's a bit of a damp squib.
Emma, did you have a different view?
Yes and no. So I wasn't really hoping for much from this. Still, I think we've mentioned it in previous episodes, still feeling that superhero fatigue somewhat. And I am definitely a Marvel girl over DC. But the thing was that I had no previous knowledge of this character, which I think actually worked in its favour. Like, I wasn't going in with any expectations. I was like, this is brand new. I literally knew nothing about it. So I think that definitely helped. And also the trailer looks it's very much on the humour side rather than an action film, which I personally prefer. They do tend to be my favourites, like, Thor Ragnarok and Aquaman, just for the daft humour that comes out of them. So I really enjoyed it for that reason. And I think I did not like Susan Sarandon in this, but I think that's just because I am like familiar with her in nice roles as opposed to being the villain. I just can't. She's too nice. I can't see her being evil. It's just not how it works. I really enjoyed George Lopez as Jaime's uncle. I thought he was hilarious, and it just really piqued my humour all the way through.
Oh, Scott's shaking his head though.
Sorry, Scott.
No, that was one of the things that, although I said I liked the family, I thought he was a little bit too much for me. I wasn't into his humour.
I don't know, that hit the spot for me, I'm afraid. That and Nana. I mean, I want that Nana. She needs to be in my family. And I didn't like. I liked the action scenes. I like the CGI was going to be a bit naff because of what it was trying to create, but actually, on the scale of things, I was finding it quite good. It wasn't too bad. I liked the way the suit created all the extra things for him to fight with, and yes, at times maybe some of the storyline was a little bit convoluted, and like you say, not necessarily enough context, but I think that worked for me because it left you being able to sort of come to your own conclusions without them laying it all out, which actually in this instance, when you don't know the characters, I actually think that worked for me.
But how did the suit create all this stuff? Where is the physics in it? Anyway, I'm not going to...
Nanotechnology from space, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, that's what we were told.
Nanotechnology and a super AI somewhere, probably. Andy, what did you make of Blue Beetle?
Yeah, I think I feel somewhere between Scott and Emma. I really quite enjoyed it. Because as Emma said, I knew nothing about the character. I knew nothing about the backstory. I enjoyed discovering what it was all about. I thought the smashy, crashy, bangy stuff was fine. But what I really liked was the involvement of our hero's family. So, if you think about it, Peter Parker never told his aunt who he was. Clark Kent doesn't tell really too many people who he is. Bruce Wayne doesn't tell people he's Batman. But in this film, the superhero is transformed into a superhero right before the eyes of his family. And then they get involved in what he's trying to do. And I thought that was refreshingly different. I thought that was really good. We got a superhero who doesn't have to hide his identity from those that are nearest and dearest to him. And as Emma says, I want that gun-toting Nana who's out there with him, dispensing of the bad guys and having great fun doing it. So I sort of fall between the two. I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the better superhero movies I've seen this year. Not up there, of course, with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but I just had a really good time. Like Scott says, I'm probably not going to remember much of it. Ask me next week and it'll probably be gone. But while it was on the screen, while I was sat there, I thought, I'm not wasting my time here. I'm actually having a good time. But it was that element of family being involved with our superhero right from the beginning and knowing who he was and then having to care for him and look after him that I thought was refreshingly different.
Okay, right. So, scores on the doors for Blue Beetle. Emma?
I'm going to go with an 8.
An 8. Andy?
I'm going with an 8 as well.
Okay, Scott?
Don't want to go this low, but I'm giving it a 5.
Well, I like that because 8 and 8 and 5 is 21, so you can divide that by 3, and it gives a Flickering Dreams score of 7.0, which makes it a marginal. Okay, right. Marginal, but it's a hit. Okay, right. I probably have to decide what I try to catch up with when I get back for the couple of days I have before I go on holiday again. It's a hard life. But yeah, I might go and see that one. So next one we're looking at is Strays. Emma, do you want to introduce Strays to us?
Yep, certainly. An abandoned, naive dog meets a group of streetwise mutts who agree to help him find his owner in the name of revenge. Here's a clip.
That's Doug, the best owner in the world. We're playing this game called Fetch and Fuck. Fetch! He drops me off really far away and drives home without me. When I bring the ball back, he says, fuck. That's how I know I won the game.
Right. So that clip made me laugh, I have to say, in the trailer. Did the film live up to it, Emma? I think it's just you and Scott that have seen this one so far.
Oh,
I haven't seen this one.
Scott's shaking his
You're
head.
on your own, Emma.
Oh, fantastic.
You're on your own.
Excellent.
Oh, no.
Don't worry. I'm going to be sensible about it.
Okay.
It's exactly like the trailer. Like, you don't go in and get many off-the-wall surprises, which I think, sometimes is just exactly what you need when you go to the cinema. Just, you're getting something that ridiculous and it works, lives up to what it says on the tin. Obviously the whole idea is, and that trailer gets me every time, poor little Reg gets dumped somewhere, runs all the way home with his ball, and he loves his owner and his owner hates him and then does it all over again. And just the way they do that throughout it's just heartbreaking. Poor little Reg. I won't tear up, I promise. But, obviously once he meets all these streetwise dogs from the city and they all get together and farce ensues, alcohol, drugs, all the things that dogs do in their downtime. It takes everything to another level. It's very much like things like Sausage Party and built for kids but made for adults kind of thing. Obviously a lot of CGI talking dogs, which actually in this I did not find offensive to look at. Some films do it horrendously, but this one, I'm going to say it looked like dogs talking. We know I haven't seen dogs talking before, but...
So Pluto's not in this.
So all the dogs have, all got their individual personalities, and we meet lots of different characters throughout the story. There is one dog who is basically a narrator dog, narrating his owner's life, and that came out of nowhere to me. I don't remember having seen a clip of it before, but it was just so funny in a really traumatizing way. Definitely one of my favourites. The core group of dogs have a great little dynamic going on, and when they eat the magic mushrooms from the forest, it's very much like the Dora the Explorer film.
Oh yes, yeah.
Scene as well. They get super high, and everyone's like animated or a sock puppet. There is a scene in that section, and you know what is coming. I mean, squeamish people look away. It's done in a very tasteful way, shall we say. I was crying with laughter because you knew what was happening. You're like, oh, they've not done this. And it gets worse and worse and worse. I just really love the way they actually made the whole story of essentially just this one small journey. I think it's supposed to be like 3 hours it took his owner to drive it. They're trying to get back, and just the way the relationships between the dogs change. So when they have sort of the quandary about they want to get revenge on Reggie's owner, Doug, and Reg is having doubts, and, you know, because he loves Doug, because he's that sort of dog, and just the way they deal with that, and then the ending, which is as insane as you would expect it to be. You know, 4 dogs getting revenge on one man. There is a lot of swearing though, which
I guess that
it doesn't really bother me, but it did feel excessive. It was like watching The Gentleman, and I wish I had taken a tally of how many swear words there were. And I didn't feel like that was necessary, but I still had a good time regardless.
Okay. So it sounds like a cross between Ted and Sausage Party then, and with a whole bunch of scatological humour.
Homeward Bound as well, bit of that.
Homeward Bound, Ted and Sausage Party. That's quite a blender word.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically. But yeah.
Right.
Entertaining.
So, okay, there's only one of you, Emma, for this. So score on the door for Strays.
It's a 7. It could be a 6 just because of the swearing, but I walked out and I said a 7 in my head.
Okay.
Just, it is ridiculous. Like, it's not going to win anything. But it's certainly worth one watch.
Okay. Right. Well, I got a horrible feeling that if Andy, Scott and I saw it, it probably wouldn't. But at a 7.0 Flickering Dreams score, Strays is a... Right. We'll see. Okay, next up we have a new film on Prime Video, which is called You Hurt My Feelings. And in You Hurt My Feelings, we have Beth, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who has a very happy relationship with her husband, played by the wonderful Tobias Menzies, until the point where Tobias Menzies lets rip about what he really feels about the book that Beth has been writing for the last 2 years. And here's a clip.
He's been lying to me this whole time.
I wasn't lying. I was encouraging.
That's not true. You were lying to be encouraging.
You know what? As an actor, Mark isn't always great.
So the times when you don't think he's good, what do you say, Mark?
So I'll start with this one. I actually really enjoyed this one. This is written and directed by Nicole Holofcener, who is actually better known for being a writer. She wrote the Melissa McCarthy film Can You Ever Forgive Me? And she also surprisingly wrote Ridley Scott's The Last Duel as well. I thought this was really wittily written. It made me laugh a lot. Having been married for 40 years, I kind of could relate to a lot of the stuff that was going on between Beth and her husband Don in this. And I thought it was really clever how it picked apart the sort of little white lies that everybody tells to everybody else in walks of life in the guise of encouragement. And the phrase that came to mind was, does my bum look big in this? Right, which puts the fear of God into every partner's heart when they get asked that question. And there is only one right answer, right? Unless you were going to get your conjugal rights withdrawn for many months. And it's kind of that kind of summarizes where the film is. At what point do you give little white lies to try to encourage people to progress in whatever they're doing, be it music or acting in the case of one of the characters in this film, or writing in the case of Beth. And I thought the whole thing was absolutely wonderfully done. And there were some great little sound bites in there. I loved the fact that everybody was struggling to be something above their station. So the girl in the shop selling pot, where her son works, she comes in and says, well, if you've got a good piece of writing, let me know, because I'm an executive producer. Says this girl behind the counter in the pot shop. And the fact that it kind of puts a nail through the heart of V-neck sweaters as a gift for any man. She's bought me V-neck sweaters before. I'm not a fan. So I thought that was really good. I just really liked the way that the whole film kind of developed like that and went in lots of different directions. There's also a wonderful scene where their son says, well, if you hadn't kind of encouraged me in different directions, I wouldn't feel so let down by the fact that I didn't actually end up being as good as you said I was in these different areas. There's quite a lot of different layers in the film, which I really, really like. So it's a big plus from me. Who else has seen this one? Scott?
Yeah.
Do you want to go next, Scott?
Okay. So sometimes I say that a film can be forgettable. And for me, unfortunately, before coming to this podcast, I was a little bit worried because I was trying to think, when it comes to my turn, what am I going to say about this film? I remember who was in it, and I remember roughly what happened in terms of, as you said, the bit where Tobias Menzies criticises Julia Louis-Dreyfus's book. But aside from that, I just remember there being lots of boring conversations. It was a very subtle film, and I appreciate that there is a lot going on. And I don't know if I was perhaps not the correct target audience exactly for this in terms of my life experiences and comparing to what's going on in this film. But I just found I found the film just drifting by. And by the time it was over, I was like, okay, that was a film that I watched. And just completely forgot about it as soon as the credits started rolling. And I feel bad for that because I don't think that it was poorly written. I don't think that it was poorly acted. In fact, I think particularly Tobias Menzies, I really liked some of the performances.
He was, of course, Prince Philip in The Crown, wasn't he, in that series?
In The Crown.
3 and 4 of The Crown, yeah.
He was excellent.
And I thought he did a really good American accent, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good actor. And they all played their parts really well. I think this one just wasn't for me, unfortunately.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I just want to say what Bob said, because I really enjoyed it. I thought the dynamic between the two lead characters was really good. I thought the performances were terrific. The interaction was great. Bit like Scott, I did see this about 4 or 5 weeks ago on a screener and had forgotten a lot of it. And I was a little worried too, Scott, about what I was going to say. So I went back over my notes. As Bob said, I think it depicts a marriage and things that can go wrong and the little white lies that get told very, very well in a very realistic manner. I thought it was very, very funny. I agree with the Rotten Tomatoes score of 94% from 179 critics. And I thought that it was well worth my time. You know, just I won't remember too much of it, but a really nice way to spend some time watching a couple bickering, telling white lies to each other, falling in, falling out, and getting on with life. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I think it would make a great stage play, which I would quite like to see it on stage.
Yeah, well,
but overall, I thought it was a really good, entertaining film.
I thought it had the feel of a Nora Ephron about it. I kept being reminded of When Harry Met Sally with like the psychiatric sessions as well. I really quite like that. Emma, did you see this one?
I didn't get a chance, but I will definitely be watching it after hearing you all talk about it.
Okay. So we're based on 3 ratings then. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Scott?
I feel like I'm such a Grinch tonight, but I'm going to give another 5 for this one.
Okay. Andy?
I'm going to give it an 8 as well, Bob, because I enjoyed it and I felt it was a pretty realistic portrayal of a marriage.
Excellent maths tonight.
Some excellent maths. I cannot fault it. So that gives us 21 divided by 3 is another 7.0. Just like Blue Beetle, then it's a very marginal for You Hurt My Feelings. Thank God for that. You didn't hurt my feelings. So, our final film tonight is a film called The Dive, which has a very specific resonance with a certain member of our community here. Andy, would you like to introduce it?
Yes, if you go and see The Dive, you may well notice the poster, which says, "This summer's fall, ... See it on the big screen. Andy Godfrey, Sorted Magazine." What can I say? Here's a clip.
Listen, you have to be back within 20 minutes. Just stay calm. The calmer you are, the less air you use. The calmer you are, the less air you use. Don't think. I'm almost out of there. Don't think. I'm gonna need more time. Don't think.
Okay. So, Andy, I think you're the only one who's seen this. I don't think this is actually out for another few days. Yeah.
No, it's in cinemas on Friday the 25th. So
25th. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I made the point of saying that they quoted me on the poster, but they put a few dots in between. So on the poster, they had me saying, "This summer's fall." What the sentence actually read was, "This summer's fall, but not as good." And secondly, they had me saying, "See it on the big screen." The full sentence was, "You may want to see this on the big screen if you like underwater photography." I know. I talked to Mark Kermode about it. He said, "It happens all the time. Just say F them and get on with it." So we have two sisters who meet up once a year. We learned very early on that Dad has died. One sister is living with Mum. They love diving. Dad taught them to be divers. They're diving in a remote stretch of coastland, miles away from anywhere. And they're sort of bonding in this one yearly exercise. However, when they are underwater, there is a problem. There's a landslide. One of them gets trapped under rocks with only about her legs are trapped with about 20 minutes worth of oxygen left, or half an hour's worth of oxygen left. The other one then has to go to the surface. As I say, they're miles from anywhere. How is she going to get these rocks off her sister to keep her sister alive? So in a sense, it is fall, but it's fall underwater. In that, how do we survive? How do two people in a remote location survive this deadly situation? I didn't think it had quite the suspense that Fall had. It certainly had none of the twists and turns that Fall had. But the act of sheer desperation we saw there, where she's kicking a car in, she's screaming at another boat that's way off in the distance somewhere. She's running to a nearby deserted chapel hoping to find somebody, and all within this time frame. So it's a real time film. One of the things I liked about it was it's done in real time. Worth seeing, yes, but not quite the nail biting tension that I thought Fall had. But I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the ending. Don't want to give any spoilers away. It's not as good as Fall, basically, but it is quite a good time at the cinema. Yeah.
Good. Okay, Marco, so 10?
I give it a 7, Bob.
7, okay.
I'll give it a 7. And that's partly because they were kind enough to quote me on the poster.
Of course. So that's a Flickering Dreams score of 7, just based off Andy's review. So that makes The Dive a
Yep.
Yeah, okay, right. So those are all the films we've got for this episode of Flickering Dreams. We still haven't done our Tim Burton director things, have we? I think we'll probably push this off a couple of weeks because we're all busy and on holidays or going away on holidays, as Scott is about to do. So we'll push that off by a couple of weeks and just focus on the film reviews for now. So my thanks to Scott, Andy and Emma, and we'll see you again same-ish time next week. Thanks very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.